Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are live and it's good to be back. 8 p.m. as I said, 8 p.m. I've got started. I'm on time for a change. Don't adjust your set. This is in black and white rather than in color. I thought this time round it was do something a little different and see how it works with black and white. So, good afternoon. So here we are. There's lots to talk about. Hope you all have had a good week. We have a great weekend of boxing ahead of us. So let's get started. The news just coming out of the UK. I am actually based in Ireland. So for those of you who were up all night watching the elections, congratulations to Mr. Cameron. Some people wanted him in power, some people didn't want him in power. The man is back in power, so congratulations to him. Back onto boxing now. The first thing to talk about is Carl Froch, the WBA IBF super middleweight champion of the world, has now been stripped of his WBA title. News is coming today. I don't know how much I know about this. All I know is that he's been stripped of his titles. So that's interesting. Obviously, he vacated the IBF rather than fight James DeGale. Now he's been stripped of the WBA title. Well, you know, it seems to me that Carl Froch has got one foot out into retirement anyway. Maybe he's waiting around to fight the winner of DeGale and Durrell. I don't know. Now, there's also a possibility of him fighting Andre Ward again. I believe if he fights Ward again, it's a cash-out fight because I don't see him ever beating Andre Ward. I think Andre Ward's just too good a fighter for Carl Froch. Simply, he took away Froch's best attribute, which is the brawler for the outside. Andre Ward stepped inside, stayed on Carl Froch's chest, and from that point onwards, Carl has got no inside game whatsoever, and Ward just stayed there and had fun inside the house. And I don't see anything different happening on the point of Andre Ward. Of course, we all know, I believe it's June 20th, he makes his long-awaited comeback against Paul Smith. Like I said in a previous video, live show, I said that I didn't give Paul Smith much of a chance. He's not the biggest super middleweight, and by the time he fights Andre Ward at a catch weight, Andre Ward will be coming in closer to a light heavyweight, because Andre Ward is, to be honest, a light heavyweight is fighting down at super middle. I don't know whether he'll be fighting a super middleweight again, but that's beside the point. Those two are fighting. Okay, next up. He said no. Floyd Mayweather has said no to rematch. Thank God for that. You know, all through this week, you've been hearing how Floyd should give Manny Pacquiao a rematch. Manny Pacquiao put on a dreadful, dreadful performance against Mayweather. Technically, it was a masterclass from Mayweather. A lot of Pacquiao fans are backing their man and believe that whether he gets his shoulder, once he gets his shoulder fixed, he's going to be a better fighter. But I think most of the boxing public are aware that Manny Pacquiao was soundly outpointed and outboxed by Floyd Mayweather, and so therefore, so glad, because we'd had to wait till 2016, and like I said in a previous video not too long ago, Floyd Mayweather should have kept his mouth shut about this rematch, because up to the point of Mayweather-Pacquiao, you had lots of people from the Pacquiao side saying that Pacquiao was going to smash Mayweather. Fine. You had lots of people from the Mayweather side saying Mayweather's going to smash Pacquiao. Fine. Was the fight going to happen? Wasn't it going to happen? The fight happened. Fine. Fair enough. Now it's done and dusted and the fight is over. And Mayweather put on a masterclass. The excuses have come out about the shoulder injury. And now new stories are coming out now out of America that how Pacquiao's camp are now saying that they lied about the injury. So it's not good. And Mayweather's reason for backing out of this rematch, simply because he says that Pacquiao is a sore loser and he's fed up of the excuses. Personally, I would like to see Floyd Mayweather fight his 49th fight and get the hell out of boxing. Do you know? Get the hell out of boxing. Get your 49th fight against whoever you want to get it against. Win that fight, retire unbeaten, and that will be great. I think that's fantastic for him. I think he does that 49-0. People are going to call him an all-time great once he retires and is long gone. I remember the times where people were dogging out Lennox Lewis when he was world champion. Dogging him out. He beat everybody in his division. They're still dogging him out. Even when he beat Tyson, they're still dogging him out. And now Lewis is retired. He's like, oh yeah, he's one of the greatest heavyweights, blah, 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 blah. So I think it's going to be the same with Floyd Mayweather. I think he is the greatest fighter of this particular era. And at that point of talking about Floyd Mayweather potentially fighting GGG, I know I mentioned it as some sort of a mythical challenge going up to the middleweight division. But let's be honest, GGG has fought nobody on his resume at the caliber of opponents that Floyd Mayweather has fought. He hasn't fought a Pacquiao. He hasn't fought a Canelo. He hasn't fought a Guerrero. He hasn't fought Oscar De La Hoya. He hasn't fought any of that sort of caliber. I didn't say he didn't fought that name. I'm talking about caliber opponents, world champions, winning world champions, some unbeaten, some who'd never been knocked out, some who had who were bona fide champions. And, GGG hasn't done that yet. And we're yet to see how GGG does against a guy as good as him. Remember, a lot of people believe Pacquiao would have beaten Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people believe Canelo was the man to beat Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people believed Oscar De La Hoya was the man to beat Floyd Mayweather. People believed Mosley was the man to beat Floyd Mayweather. Some even believed Ortiz might beat Mayweather. But when you look at GGG and who GGG's fought up to this point, nobody GGG's fought has anyone said, I give this guy a chance against GGG. The general story is when you fight GGG, so far, the guys he's fought us, there's only a matter of time before GGG catches you. So, really and truly, at this point in time, GGG has to step up and fight. For me, I don't even think a Cotto fight is a legit fight. Yes, I know Cotto was a middleweight champion, but I don't think he's a legit middleweight. He didn't look great at light middle for me. He's a middleweight, a blown-up middleweight who's now fighting Gill at a catch weight. And, the GGG is a big, strong, powerful middleweight. So I don't know how long Cotto's going to get to hold on to a run with that middleweight title. But I think if he does fight GGG, it's a cash-out fight again. So, moving on. Broner versus Sean Porter. The last time I spoke to you guys and girls, I mentioned the fact that Sean Porter might be fighting Keith Thurman. It so happens now that there's an agreement for Broner to fight Porter. Interesting. A good fight, I think. Porter constantly brings pressure. Won't give Broner time of day to clown around. And Broner on the comeback trail. Porter's style will be similar to Maidana. And at welterweight, I think that's a tough fight for Broner. Should he come through that, it'll be a very good win. So that's to look forward to. Okay, let's get on with boxing this weekend. We've got Sturm versus former Chris Eubank. In fact, Chris Eubank Jr.'s last opponent, Chudinov. Sturm's fighting. I expect the more experienced Sturm to beat Chudinov. I expect him to beat him on points. I don't expect it to be that much of an exciting fight. Just depends on how much Sturm has got left. But if the Sturm turns up that has been fighting very well and is still in good nick and isn't injured, I expect him to beat Chudinov there, a points decision, I think. On the British scene, Bradley Skeet is coming back and he's fighting a guy by the last name of Zamora. Skeet, for me, is very good, underestimated fighter. His fight against Gavin was a stink. No disrespect to Frankie Gavin, but the guy as a boxer, he really doesn't excite me at all. I think the most exciting that Gavin's going to be in is the fight he fights against Kell Brook, and I'll talk about that later. But yes, I believe Skeet wins this fight. It's a ticking over fight against Zamora. I don't expect Zamora to give him too many problems. I think the Skeet on the inside is quite good. Watched him at ringside, and I was surprised at how good he is up close inside. Sneaks very good shots inside. I expect Skeet to win this fight. I think it's more of an exhibition fight for me. Moving on, former Bayloric TV guest and a good friend, Mitchell Smith, after that devastating 4-5 punch combination knockout in the last fight on Box Nation, is back at Super Feather. He's fighting a guy called Christian Palmer. Well, I can tell you this, Mitchell Smith is a very exciting super featherweight. He's a very exciting fighter. Puts his combinations very well. One of the things Mitchell Smith I've spoken to him about, and he knows himself, his last 2 fights, before this last fight he had a knockout, he was one that used to go out there looking for the knockout, loading up, throwing big shots. So it was nice in his last fight to, as you saw, if you saw the fight, the fight, he had his hands up, covering up. The guy wasn't throwing much, and he just let go. Boom, 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 boom. 4-5 punch combination, not like guy cold. Okay, nobody probably knows who the guy is, but it's good to see Mitchell Smith letting his hands go. He can knock you out with either hand. He's a good boxer. And I like the way that Jason Rowland, his trainer, and that team are building their fighter up. He's going the right way, Mitchell Smith. I like the way they're going about him, building a fight, not taking their time and building a career rather than rushing for titles. Good fighter. He's got a long career in the sport. The way they're building him up, I like it. Good fighter. Frank Buglioni is back in a grudge match against his amateur nemesis, Buglioni against Lee Markham. I believe that Buglioni, under the tutelage of Collins in Ireland, where I am in Dublin, I believe that Buglioni has made fundamental changes. I said when he was with his former trainer, Buglioni, that he needed to pay more attention to defense. And I said that it was only a matter of time before he got knocked out. He came against, I can't remember the guy's name again. But anyway, he got knocked out by him, changed trainers, and he's made adjustments. His last fight against, I think, Andrew Robinson, and it was a good fight. Went a long time with Robinson. Then he fought his last guy, stopped him in a round, which was a bit of an insignificant fight. With a straight right hand, he stopped him. Markham is a guy that likes to tuck up well, nice and tight, and come forward. I think a mature performance from Frank Buglioni we should see in this matchup. I believe the straight right hand through the guard of Markham will be key in this fight. I think Buglioni is a class above the likes of Lee Markham, and I believe he stops Lee Markham inside 6 rounds. Coming back to the Mitchell Smith fight, my only concern for Mitchell Smith in this fight is that he loses his right. He mustn't lose his right. Christian Palmer, from what I'm studying, is a very dirty fighter. Likes to stick his head in when he's fighting. Stick his head in and on your chest and foul you. And I wouldn't be surprised if he tries the same thing with Mitchell Smith. But I hope Mitchell gets him out of there before he gets his butt in, or he tries to get him throwing low blows. I think Mitchell needs to land early and get this guy out there as soon as possible. Let me just stop for a second and see if there's been any messages on my YouTube page. Woo! Sorry, people, I didn't even see you there. Good evening, Chris Golding, Atia, Lucy. Okay, first, Chris Golding says, hi, Ingram. Thanks again for another Bayloric show. You are welcome. I have to say, Chris, that the reason why I'm doing the show, if I'm really honest, is because I've just got damn lazy. There's so much boxing on this weekend that to sit down and do a video for each particular fight, be here all day. I haven't honestly got the time to do all that. So at the moment, I've decided to do this show, and thank you for your support. Chris asks, of course, there's some decent action this weekend. Post last week's disappointments. Yep, I think for the casual boxing fans, and I know you're not a casual boxing fan, for the casual boxing fans, there's a few scraps this weekend, and I think fans will be excited to see people going hell for leather at one another. Can Canelo step up to the plate? We'll talk about the Canelo fight in a moment. And can Matchroom do the duo, do it in the US? Interesting. We'll talk about that as well. Atia says Pacquiao appears to be a sore loser. Yes, very sore loser, indeed. And it doesn't do his legacy a lot of good. You do things like that. But let's move on. Can you imagine a hero like ours, Nigel Benn, complaining about an injury? Hell no, Manny should have kept shut. Yeah, Manny should have shut his mouth. He shouldn't have mentioned anything about no damn injury. He probably would have got the rematch with Mayweather. Shouldn't have said nothing about injury. Better man won. End of conversation. Chris Golding continues and says, Broner too lazy. Porter will be too strong. I believe so. I believe Porter outworks Adrian Broner. How do you think Luke Campbell will get on, says Lucy Marshall. Lucy, good evening. How are you? I hope you're well. I believe Luke Campbell is a good fighter. I like him a lot. I think he's very talented. I just hope with Luke Campbell they step him up at the right time. I think with good management. And actually, I would like to see Luke Campbell base himself in the States because you get a lot of... you get better sparring out there and you expose a lot more things. But his amateur pedigree, without a doubt, was excellent. He's turned into a nice pro there. The way he's going for the ranks reminds me of a very young Oscar De La Hoya. Maybe not as explosive as De La Hoya, but certainly rangy and Glass puts his punches together well. Want to see him against better opposition, of course. I don't think Tommy Coyle is that. I believe he gets rid of Tommy Coyle. But I'd like to see Campbell in some good fights in the future. I think he's one to watch for sure. I do rate him highly. Mitchell Smith, I think the fight he's got tomorrow night is nothing more. I think I believe he'll get through that fight, no problems. Mitchell Smith is a world-class fighter in and out of the ring. Absolutely, I think Mitchell Smith has got bags of charisma, really nice guy, and genuinely cares about fans. Lucy Marshall says Manny isn't a sore loser. Well, he might be a bit of a sore loser with the shoulder. I think he's sore, meaning sore, and he's lost a fight. So we could call him a sore loser in that sense. But well, I don't want to talk too much about Manny Pacquiao. There's so many other fights to talk about. We're going to move on. Anthony Joshua. Big Anthony is back. You all know my opinions of Anthony Joshua. The big man is back. He returns against a man by the name of Zumbo Love. Well, I was quite critical of this guy, Love. He got knocked out in his last two fights. But there's some interesting lines here. Love went the distance in a USBA fight against Shannon Briggs. Now, if you know anything about Shannon Briggs, you know he can punch. And for the first, Shannon Briggs, having said that, if there was a heavyweight prize fighter, I'd put Shannon Briggs in it. Because Shannon Briggs, without a shadow of doubt, in the first 3 rounds, will just come out chucking bombs left, right, and center. And the one thing Shannon Briggs can do, he can punch. Well, he went 10 rounds with this guy, Love, or 12 rounds for the USBA title, and or NABF title, one of the other minor titles in the US. And Love went the distance with him. Love got knocked out by Eric Molina. Late on, Eric Molina is the guy that's going to fight Deontay Wilder, I believe, on June the 13th. And he got stopped by somebody else. The stoppages Love has had have been stoppages that are late on. So it'll be impressive now if Anthony Joshua can get the stoppage early. The one thing I have to say about Love, he cannot box. He's not a boxer. I'm sorry, he cannot box. He puts his hand up like a boxer. He's like an actor. He puts his hand up like a boxer. How do I describe him? He's like he's a running punch bag, if you get me, because he kind of slices himself up like a boxer, and then you start to hit him, he starts flinching away. He just looks. Look, Anthony Joshua, in terms of Why he's fighting this guy, I don't know. Apart from the guy seems durable, but he's got knocked out, what, 3 times? He's just going to run around Anthony Joshua. I think he'll just run around, and as soon as Joshua hits him, he's going to run around the ring. Now, Joshua hasn't knocked anybody out. I mean, when I say knockout, I mean like when Wilder knocks you away, he hits you, and you stay hit on the canvas. So I don't know about this guy, Love. I don't believe Love can win this fight. and if he were to cause the upset, I believe Anthony Joshua should retire quickly and maybe flee to another country. There is no reason whatsoever why Anthony Joshua should get beat by Love. But I believe that Love could make this fight frustrating, because if you look at his last fight against Jason Gavin, Anthony Joshua didn't look that impressive, and he looked frustrated. He seems a frustrated fighter to me, and I'm still not convinced of his relationship with Eddie Hearn. I don't know. I just kind of feel that something ain't quite right there, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's just my journalistic skills going the wrong way, but something's not quite right there. I'm not sure. But I expect Joshua to win this fight. If you can knock Love out inside 4 or 5 rounds, that'd be good. But the thing about this Love guy, if he can survive the first 3 rounds and he can get into rounds 6, 7, 8, 9, that's what I want to see. I want to see him take Joshua the distance. I had this discussion in my last video, last live show with the former England footballer, what's his name again? Carlton Palmer. And I said, Joshua's build, and his muscular build, reminds me so much of Frank Bruno, not Lennox Lewis, because Lennox Lewis was lean. And, you know, Bruno was muscular, big and muscular. And I just feel that we don't know what Anthony Joshua will do in the second half of a fight, in a tough fight. Is this guy going to have stamina issues? Is that lactic acid going to build up? Now, he's a 21st century heavyweight. You'd think that, you know, he's got good sports science people around him. You'd hope that his body doesn't kind of clam up on him on the second half of a fight. So we're just going to see what he does against Love. Let's see what he does. I would like to see Joshua go more than 3 rounds, for sure. Next fight up, Kingpin Johnson. Don't know when the last time Kingpin Johnson fought. I think he fought against Malmo Shah. Well, Kingpin Johnson's the best that Anthony Joshua would have fought. He's a wily veteran indeed. Dangerous if Joshua gets tired late on. And when you get tired, you start to make mistakes. The hands start to drop, and your chin is open to getting hit. So we need to see what Joshua does when he gets hit back. Get hit back by a guy who wants to hit you back, right? Not a guy that when you hit him, when you hit the opponent, he just stops and falls on the floor. A guy that when you hit him, he goes, all right, that's what you got? Well, I'm going to hit you as well. Bang, and hits Joshua back. We need to see him do that. We need to see him take that. Before we start talking about Joshua being the next world heavyweight champion, I think that commentators in UK need to be more responsible when they're talking and giving fans the blowing smoke up and do Joshua, and they need to talk about the fighter or his development. Stop talking about him becoming a world champion. If he's good, let's develop him in the right ways. Let's give him the right meaningful fights that will test him and develop him. So when he gets that position where he fights a world class, he has been in the ring, has been tested, has gone the distance, had fought quality opposition, has had his chin tested, and he's ready for the big fight. Not when he gets 22-0 and fought nobody, then he goes and fights a guy who has fought, who has been tested, hits him on the chin, and he falls over. We don't want that. We really don't want that. And if you look at the way Frank Bruno's early career started off, and you look at Anthony Joshua, the warning signs are there. The matchmaker as well for Anthony Joshua. Who is the matchmaker? What is their history? What, you know, can they secure your world title shot? It's can you make you a world champion? Can they give you that right fight? And the one thing about Frank Warren, I will say, people can slag Frank Warren off till the cows come home, but there's one thing about Frank Warren. He secured you the world title shots, and he secured you the world title shots at home and gave you home advantage. Look at the way he managed Ricky Hatton's career. He had that WBU championship for a long while, but he was ticking out and fighting good caliber opponents. That's why Hatton was able to do what he did and then have that fight against Costa and fight after that. He fought meaningful fights, testing fights. I remember when he fought Amy McGee was dropped early in his career. Things like that matter. Boxing fanatics think that because a guy knocks out 10 people in a row, he's a world champion. No, he's just knocked out 10 guys. That's what he's done. You've got to fight caliber opponents. Is this guy love preparation for Kevin Johnson? I don't think so. Let me stop talking. Let me see what people are saying again, because you people matter. You, the fans. So let's see what's going here. He goes, Chris Goulden says, agreed on the US sparring. We're talking about Luke Campbell here. I think the problem with Matchroom is that they build their fighters up to be world beaters. Too much hype by Sky. Yes, if you really be honest, be deep. Look, UK boxing fans, be deeply honest with yourselves when you look at the Matchroom or you look at the Box Nation stable. How many guys are genuinely world class? And when you say genuine world class, I want you to tell me 2 or 3 guys they've fought in the top 10 and they've won against. World class to me is a guy that is fighting at world level, means the top 10, and you're beating guys in the top 10, or you are there or thereabouts in the top 10, and genuinely beating top 10 guys, either former world champions or world champions themselves, retaining a world title, or, you know, fighting for a world title, or a world title eliminator against a top rated guy. And you're there a while, not just you fight one guy and you're world class. You've got to do it consistently at a consistent level. Like, for example, in athletics, you would say Usain Bolt is world class because you look at the field and everybody on that field has got either a European championship or a, you know, they've broken this record and they're top person in the country. He's fighting, beating the best that are on that field at the time, not beating the number 55 or the number 72 or the number 85. He's beating the best in that field, the Olympic final or the World Championship final. He's playing against the very best. And that is a problem with, you know, British boxing in particular. We like to rate our guys. A guy beats somebody who's ranked 72 in the world and he's suddenly world class. So we've got to stop it. We've got to really look at these guys down properly and see how many of these guys genuinely can win a world title. Because I tell you something, there's a lot of painful nights ahead if, you know, these fighters are not matched right. Okay. Lucy Masters, yet we can have that. I think that's about Manny being a sore loser. Joshua versus Briggs. You know what? I'd see that fight. I would have that fight, Joshua versus Briggs. Because there's one thing you know about Shannon Briggs, he can punch. And for the first 3 to 4 rounds, he's going to try and have it with Joshua. Good fight, I think. Even though Briggs is 42, if Briggs hits Joshua in the chin, who knows? Good fight, I think. Chris Goulden says, Mickey Hellier, his manager reckons Love will give it a go, not lay down. Let's hope so. Yeah, well, he might give it a go on the back foot running. I don't see. Love can't box. Love cannot box. I'm sorry. You'll see him on the night. You go and look him on YouTube. He just kind of puts his hands up there and just looks like a. You know, it reminds me of like an opponent of Mike Tyson's Punch Out. No, I'm sorry. All right. Chris Golden says. Chris Golden says, as you said, Ingram, I don't think this is the best preparation for Wiley veteran Kingpin Johnson. Absolutely, that is definitely not. Ingram, you are amazing. Thank you very much, Lucy. IJ is good at his job and he covers many things apart from boxing. Thank you, Mr. How do I pronounce this? GG God1. How do I pronounce that? I'll just call you Mr. God1. Atia says, so true, Mr. Godwin. Mr. Godwin, look no further than Brady Price. Yep, David Price, a good fight. Lucy Marshall says, Frank is a prick. Lucy, have you had some personal dealings with Frank? Every time I've seen him, he seems always a nice guy. Business-wise, I'm not sure. But I'll tell you something, Lucy. One thing I will say to you, Lucy, is I think you've got to have a problem. You've got to look at Eddie Hearn and what Eddie Hearn has done with Ricky Burns. We're going to talk about that in a minute anyway. Frank's a prick. Okay. Mr. Godwin says, hi, Atia. Tia says hi. Okay. Mr. God says great videos from you and IJ. Even riding the bus with East Lane gives you sweet memories. Thank you, love. Thank you. Okay, great guys. Keep talking. Right. So let's move on. Can you explain to me, Lucy, why you think that Frank's a prick? Well, okay. The return of Joshua Clottey. He returns on Saturday as well. That's good to see Joshua Clottey back. And of course, we've got the two big fights. Of course, UK fans are interested in Ricky Burns against Omar Figueroa. Well, you would be surprised, or you may be surprised to know that I have had some conversations with Omar Figueroa. We're yet to get an interview. We've been talking back and forth for ages, Omar and myself, but never quite got an interview going. But anyway, my views on this fight. Well, my views go way back. And you know where I think it went wrong with Ricky Burns? If you ask me personally, is when he left Frank Warren and he went to Eddie Hearn. All right? I think he defended, he had that mandatory defense against that, I think that Colombian guy who I thought was beating the hell out of Ricky Burns. Then he fought Ray Beltran, I believe fought Ray Beltran after that. And after he fought Ray Beltran, who I believe was going to beat him anyway, and he got that draw and he got his jaw broken, and I predicted that that Burns would get caught by the left hook of Beltran. He did and got his jaw broken. Then he came back and then he fought Terence Crawford again. I told everybody that Terence Crawford was going to put a whooping in Burns. I've seen Terence and done a few interviews with him, spoken to him, and we all know now that Terence Crawford is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. Burns has had it hard, and I'll tell you something. I don't think that move to Matchroom did him any favors whatsoever. Any favors whatsoever. Then he had that fight. I think he moved up, and he had that fight against the Montenegrin guy who was very, very, very good. Very underrated by a lot of people. Dropped Burns in the first 30 seconds. I think, yeah, I remember that fight actually, because Sky again, and who's the guy who was commentating? But he went, "Oh, you can put your house on Ricky Burns. You can put your house on Ricky Burns." That was Jim Watt, yeah. "You can put your house on Ricky Burns. He'll win this one. Put your house on it." And the first 30 seconds, Burns was on the canvas. And from that point onwards, Ricky Burns was in reverse gear, getting basically beat up. Ricky Burns, I'm afraid to say, is shot. I believe he's finished at top level. I really do. And it's sad for such a nice guy, because that situation with him and Frank Warren, and him being, it's not good. I don't know the ins and outs, the implications, but I know that it was a lot of money that Ricky Burns had to pay out. And I remember at the time Eddie Hearn saying that, Burns was well within his right to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know if Matchroom covered him or helped him out, but I do know one thing. He's been in Texas for the last 3 weeks, which is really, really good to know that Ricky Burns has been in Texas for the last weeks. But I'd like to know, out of his paycheck, is the expenses, the sparring partners, the accommodation, how much that is taken out of his wages, and how much he's going to be earning on the night against Omar Figueroa. My concerns with Ricky Burns, every time Ricky Burns decides to engage and throw punches, he leaves his chin in the air. Also, Ricky Burns, when he throws punches, he pulls his chin straight back. All the things you're told as a boxer not to do, Ricky Burns does. So Ricky Burns will come forward and he'll do that, and he'll throw his punches, and then he has his chin in the air when he's throwing his punches. And he's got all this open, He's got a good chin, don't get me wrong. He's got all this when he's throwing punches, Ricky. And then when he's pulling away from punches, he does and he goes straight back, not to the side you'll see from Mayweather or De La Hoya, to the sides. This guy goes straight back with his chin in the air. For me, he's fighting Omar Figueroa. Now, I like Omar Figueroa. I think he's an exciting fighter. He's what they call a fan's favorite. He gets in barnstormers. He just gets in your face and throws a lot of punches. He's probably, this is going to be harsh. This is going to be real harsh. But he's a better version of Brandon Rios. Sorry. He's just a brawler. He's just a brawler. that has a little pop on his punches. He's not a boxer. He's nothing scientific about Figueroa. You're not going to get lateral movement and fancy dance and move from left to right and oh, you're not going to get that. Figueroa's going to come straight at you and he's going to be throwing punches. Now, the sad thing about this fight for Ricky Burns is that Figueroa throws straight punches. Does do looping shots, but he does throw out straight punches. Ricky Burns likes to back up with his chin in the air. Figueroa may have the longer reach in this fight. I believe Burns is actually the taller guy in this fight. Figueroa is moving up in weight, so some question marks there rather whether Figueroa actually has got punch power at this new weight. Ricky Burns has not been up his big punch power, although I predicted it that he would stop someone like Kevin Mitchell, but I believe Burns is going to be getting a terrible beating on Saturday night. I'm sorry. Figueroa is young, he's fresh, he's reinvigorated, moving up in weight, and he's just going to be just charging at Burns. There was one thing Ricky Burns said, and I don't know if any of you heard the interviews. But two things Ricky Burns said. He says, I'm really excited about being in America. It's a fighter's dream to be in America. Yes, it is a fighter's dream, Ricky, and I understand that. Then he goes and says, I just want to put on a good performance. Now, the impression I get from that is, look, I don't think I'm going to win this fight. I'm not sure if I'll give him my best shot. I don't think I'm going to win this fight, but if I can just do the distance with this guy Figueroa, and then I'm going to move back down to lightweight, and then I'll fight from there. That's the rumors. Those are the stories I've heard, that Burns is going to have this fight, win, lose or draw. He's going to move back down to lightweight. But I mean, I don't know where Ricky Burns goes from there. And the other thing is, had he stayed with Frank Warren, I believe that fight against Adrian Broner may still have happened. And I'll tell you something, he may not have kept the WBO championship against Crawford, but I can guarantee you, Ricky Burns would be in a better position than what he is today if he'd stayed with Frank Warren. Now, I want to hear what you boxing fans think about that and what I've just said. Let's hear what some people have got to say. Chris Golden says, there's a saying, the grass is always greener on the other side. Well, I don't think that's the case with Ricky Burns. Mr. Godwin says, I hope Ricky does well for a double world champion living in Britain to be bankrupt allegedly worth £208. He's a travesty. He's a real gentleman. Yeah, it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But who told him to go and sign with Eddie Hearn? Chris Gordon says he's a humble guy. He's working part-time in a sports shop till a while ago. Keeps him level-headed. He does. It'll be a sad thing if he has to go back and work in that sports shop full-time. It's a sad state of affairs. Ricky Burns, one of UK's world champions. I like him. He's such a nice guy. And I can tell you now, if he'd been in Warren, I think he'd have stayed in Scotland and packed out the arena a lot of times over. And I think you would have even seen Ricky Burns versus Scott Harrison. Somehow that fight would have happened. As Chris Golden continues, says, that sounds like he's notorious. If so, he's going to get hurt. Yeah, he's going to he could get really badly hurt in this fight. I would love for Ricky Burns. I would love for Ricky Burns to pull it off, because there's no nicer guy in boxing than probably Ricky Burns. But you're going to need some technique. And in some ways, I kind of wished the two guys going out into the US, I kind of wished Ricky Burns was fighting the guy that McDonald's fighting, and I wished Figueroa was fighting McDonald. Do you understand? Kameda was fighting Burns. So I think that would have been a better fight. And I think that McDonald versus Figueroa would have been a better fight. I know they're two different weight divisions, but what I'm saying is that in terms of techniques and style, I think Burns would have stood a better chance beating Kameda than beating Figueroa because of the sort of style they've got. Mr. Godwin says, when we saw Burns fight Conceders and Mitchell and win both fights the way he did, Then he went to Matchroom and it was downhill all the way. Absolutely. Absolutely. You join Matchroom and you know what? I've heard this story. I've been told by good sources in America that what Hearn has done, he's got a. Do you remember when there was a situation where Broner fought Gavin? What's his name again? Oh, Gavin Reese. And Devon Alexander beat, what's that guy's name again? Lee Purdy, beat him one-handed. Those two fights, did you know that there's a deal that supposedly, don't know how true this is, so don't quote me on it, that Hearn has signed a deal with Golden Boy. So when those guys go to America, there's a percentage and a cut that by Hearn supplying these fighters. So basically, he gets his fighters up to these fringe, all these world title eliminators. That's why he loves all these eliminators. And then, you know, takes a nice cut from the eliminators because the IBF and all these things pay him. And then from that, ships them off to America to get their ass whooped, basically. And it's got a nice little deal with Golden Boy for providing the fighters. So, yeah, that's it. So that was the deal there. And I don't know what the deal is now. He's probably done a deal with Heyman for, obviously, his PBC sports or boxing. So, right. Let's see. Atia says, where is his head thought? Do you think perhaps he's going on in his personal life impacts his boxing? Well, if somebody's taken, I think it's 240,000 or something like that was taken off for you, that's a lot of money. I think personally I'd be affected by that. I just want to get in the ring and just do what I've got to do. And, you know, once you're in the ring, I think, you know, there's an expression boxers say, and it's very true. And any of your boxers understand that the safest place to be is inside the ring. And, you know, all you have to worry about when you're in the ring is that opponent. Don't worry about no bills. You don't have to worry about this or that. Just the opponent. And you've got a referee there if things go wrong, don't go your way. But the safest place is inside the ring. That's from a boxer's perspective. Okay. I wish I knew, he says, Mr. Egg God 1. Okay. Ricky Burns, he has a tremendous heart and courage. 10 rounds with a broken jaw. I hope his bravery doesn't get the better of him. I can see him in exchange with Figueroa and then getting dropped. Whether he can, Figueroa will be all over him. But I hope Ricky can put on a good fight. It's Mr. Ed God 1. Okay. Mr. Ed God 1, I'd love to know why you call yourself Mr. Ed God 1. I'd love to know. Mr. Ed God Love says you've got to love it. Right. Okay, so the next fight obviously to talk about is Jamie McDonald against Kameda. Now look at this fight. Kameda's unbeaten. It's a unification bout. I have to say, Jamie McDonald's last fight, he didn't look that impressive. He looked like he was on a downer actually. I don't know if it was just a bad night for Jamie McDonald. He didn't look great. He was getting hit way more often. Another one who's been with contractual issues. I think he had with Dennis Hobson, and he moved over to Matchroom. Another one. Kameda, you know, I would say Kameda's got very much a basic style, a bit of a brawler, boxes a bit. I believe Kameda does put a bit of a challenge here for McDonald. I think Kameda, his best opportunity to win this fight, for me, he has to start early. He has to work McDonald's body. I think McDonald is very suspect to body shots. I think he takes a good shot on the chin, but I think the body, that's where Kameda's going to really sit down and let his shots go against McDonald. McDonald has to use the jab. He's got to use the jab, the right hand, the uppercuts, keep Kameda at distance. And I believe McDonald can win this fight in the second half of the fight. Kameda has a tendency to tire in fights. I don't think he's as experienced a fighter as McDonald. And I think McDonald can win this fight second half of the fight as long as he doesn't decide to go macho and have a brawl. I do believe, yes, he is tight for the weight at bantamweight, indeed. And I do suspect if you go to the body of someone like McDonald. If you go to the body, you can grind him down. And you've got to go to the body. Fighters like McDonald, you've got to go to the body early. You've got to go to the body early, and then maybe launch your attacks. Say like from rounds 7 onwards. Then you go for your brutal attacks for McDonald then, because that's where the guy is slowed. You're taking his feet away from him, so you're taking his mobility away from him. Then he becomes standing right in front of you. Then he's forced to brawl, and that will suit someone like Kameda and his style. He likes to brawl. Kameda, again, not experienced enough. I think he's unbeaten, yes, but a lot of his fights have been in Japan or China, and now he's got a couple of fights in Las Vegas. Very popular fighter, and certainly he'll be the draw in America. I think McDonald's going to have to win this fight convincingly. If he's going to win, he's going to have to fight convincingly, and it's going to be a tough old fight. If I believe Kameda early, if there's going to be a stoppage, I believe Kameda early. But I believe that Kameda can be stopped his fight himself. He got wobbled a few times in the last fight. Was open to the left hook. But I think I'm going to go with McDonald. I'm going to go with McDonald. Austin Trout makes his return as well. Good old Austin Trout, another one that I've interviewed. Like Austin, likable guy. Kind of felt with him after the Canelo fight. He fought so well against Cotto. Got beat by Canelo. Then got beat by Lara. Images still go through my mind. The way he got dropped by Canelo. 1 minute he's boxing, next minute his back leg falls on the floor. That image is still in my mind up to today. His fight against Lara, I don't know, it just seemed jaded. Trout, it just seemed like he was boxing all wrong against Lara. Was all wrong for him. Now he fights guy Galazara, how you pronounce his name. But the form guide is Galazara fought Kell Brook when Kell Brook made his US debut. A lot of people raved about that fight. Said Kell Brook looked sensational. That was Sky, of course. I didn't think he looked sensational. I thought he got caught, was open a lot. The one thing about this guy, Galazara, he's a late replacement for Trout. He will come and he'll give it a good fight. So I think Trout Galazara could be a very good fight. Let's hear what the fans are saying. Chris Golding says, Dave Colwell, I think we'll keep him calm. It will be hot out there. Yeah, it will be, and it'll be a tough night's work out there. Mr. E God1, IJ, I got that name from the amount of children I have. I bought it to YouTube in 2007. I have 12 children ranging between 1 to 16. Wow, 1 to 16. Wow, not bad, not bad. I believe in the Caribbean, I know a gentleman's got I think myself and the team met a gentleman that had I think it's 26 kids, and somebody else we spoke to around the table had 43 children. Yeah, 43. So you're not doing bad for yourself. Not doing bad for yourself. You're busy at work, and nice to know you've got 12 children. You could start a cricket team with that. You give me ideas. Wow, that is some impressive going now. Well, very impressive. I guess you've tried 12 times and you've succeeded 12 times. Well done. I think Mayweather would give you the wink and the nod for that. You've done a heck of a job, as Mayweather would say. Anyway, moving on. Do you think Vlad looked aged against Jennings, or did he just have a bad night? No. And we have a special exclusive with Brian Jennings, a video interview, a hilarious video interview, because Brian and me seem to have a decent relationship, which means that he even decides to take me into the toilet with him on Skype. So it's, you'll have to see it for yourself. It's a video interview. He's ready to fight anybody in the world. Yeah, I don't want to ruin the video for you. It's a good interview. I believe that Brian Jennings is one of the best heavyweights in the world, and I believe he's an underestimated heavyweight. And I didn't buy into the hype with Jennings and the hype around the fact that Jennings was too small. The long reach he had, I mean, guys with shorter reach was able to catch Klitschko. Jennings was able to do that. I just think that Klitschko had never fought somebody who had as long reach as Jennings, and that's why I was getting kept a lot of the time. He had a lot of hunger and desire. So I don't believe Klitschko had a bad night. I think he had a more difficult fight than people anticipated. A lot of people will have their minds switched on for Klitschko to knock Jennings out in a few rounds. It didn't happen that way, so that's why Klitschko looked bad. But no, I think, and also I'll go back to the point again, and I'll keep on saying it. Jonathan Banks told Klitschko to box, told him not to load up, and I think maybe a more experienced cornerman, Bashir, or maybe Freddie Roach may have said different instructions may have caused Klitschko to maybe knock Jennings out because they've looked different openings and gone from a different way. So Klitschko was told to kind of hold back and box rather than get engaged with Klitschko, with Jennings. So I think that's got to do with the fight as well. I'm off to Hove on Monday for a corporate jolly. Will be nice to watch a cricket and have some drinks. Oh, Chris, that's my old home, Hove. I lived in Hove for 3-4 years. Hove actually, and yes, Brighton and Hove is where I did my growing up. I moved there when I was not 20 years old. A beautiful place. I boxed out in Hove. I was good friends with the Eubanks. I knew Eubank Jr. When I used to do my runs in the mornings, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd go for my runs. I'd be running from Hove down to the marina and back. Those of you who know it, it's right down the steps. And you'll see Chris Eubank Jr. do it running up and down the steps. Gives you great cardiovascular fitness, and it really is hard work. Loved it out there. I lived off Sackville Road, which is just about 5-6 minutes walk from the actual ground itself. Beautiful, beautiful place, Hove, Sussex, wonderful. I went there recently on a short, brief trip to England, and I visited. I got off at Gatwick and said, you know what? I haven't seen Sussex for so long. I went down to Worthing. That's my favourite spot in Sussex. Went down to Worthing and went to the beach. I spent about an hour there, and then I was on the train down back through Hove. Great times, great memories. Got some really good friends out there, and I must go back and spend some time out there. Fantastic. Lucy says virile. Okay, I'm not sure. Somebody will have to explain it to me. The government helps a lot, Atia. Oh, right. Okay. LOL. Kiss. Okay. Well, at least you know your taxes are coming back to your household. Smile. Soft kiss. Okay. It was nice to hear your recent interview with Stavern. If you put his story or put his side of story, yeah, well, that was very interesting. The Stavern Don House interview. Anyone who heard the Don House interview, that interview is no longer available. It was interesting, let's put it this way, and Stavern wasn't too happy about it, and he wasn't happy about it, and his fans weren't happy about it, that this person from Bayloric TV had put something out like that. But it wasn't me who put it out there, it was basically his trainer put him under the bus. So what did you want me to do? So, you know, obviously it was right to give Bermain, you know, and I'm not in the business of making people look bad or anything like that, but Bermain obviously felt really bad because, you know, the stories of him being in a nightclub and all this sort of stuff weren't true. Some of the stories that were said about him being in a nightclub, actually, he was with his trainer at the time when those stories were coming out. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Bermain come back in July. It'd be good to see where he fits in the heavyweight division. You know, I've got a sneaking suspicion, and I keep getting this funny feeling that Bermain Stavern and Brian Jennings are going to fight. Just this feeling. But I believe Bermain Stavern and Jean Pascal. Yeah, Jean Pascal. You know, the guy at light heavyweight that just got knocked out by Kovalev. Yeah, that's Jean Pascal. He's going to move up to heavyweight, I believe, and fight Stavern. I'd like to know how he gets up to heavyweight, and I hope he does it by natural means. I think I don't know what Pascal's doing at heavyweight, and I guess it's a Canadian sort of Haitian thing. I see Stavern blowing Pascal out of the water. The one thing Pascal will have is speed, of course, coming up from light heavyweight, but I'm not sure how he does as a heavyweight. IJ, I know that you know Eubank Jr. Do you think he will beat Saunders this time? Eubank Jr., Billy Joe Saunders, the fight that I believe will get announced I don't think it's rocket science. I believe the two will fight again. They were meant to fight tonight, tomorrow night, actually. Not fight tomorrow night, but Billy Joe Saunders and Chris Eubank are going to fight against two insignificant opponents. Yeah. Do I think he wins the rematch? I think a lot of people expect him to come out and fight better. I think a lot of people expect Eubank to put on a better performance. I think Saunders is still a better boxer. Don't care what anyone tells me, Saunders is a better boxer. I believe Saunders, if Eubank comes, Eubank, I don't know about Eubank's boxing ability. I think it's very limited, and it's limited. That's why he brawls so much. People say, well, he was, he was nervous the first time round. This time he's going to let it all out. Yeah, I think he let it all out. The only thing I think Billy Joe Saunders is world class. The only thing I don't think is world class about Billy Joe Saunders is his stamina. I think Billy Joe Saunders has got domestic stamina. If you're going to rate his stamina in terms of domestic, European, and world class, it's domestic. What I mean domestic is it only gets you so far. Billy Joe Saunders, if he got his stamina sorted, I believe he can outbox Eubank again. Nowhere in that fight did Eubank look like he could knock Saunders out. His punches at times were, I don't know. I don't think he's made that much improvement as a fighter since the last fight to this fight. If this fight was made like five fights down the road and then they fought, I might give him a chance. But the thing with immediate rematches or fight rematches just straight after, I think that normally the guy who wins the first fight normally comes and wins the second fight in a rematch. Generally, that's what the history books say. We don't have to go too far. We just have to look at Froch Groves 1 and 2. I believe Eubank will start faster. But Eubank likes to fight his own pace. He likes to fight at his own pace. Billy Joe Saunders won't let him fight his own pace. So I believe it's an explosive fight. I believe stamina is the key in this fight. I don't know who wins the fight. I think Billy Joe Saunders wins the fight again. And if he does win the fight again, that's not good for Chris Eubank Jr.'s career. We hope that Chris Eubank Jr. can win this fight, because then it sets up a great trilogy. So that's my thoughts on that. Good fighters, both of them. I love Billy Joe Saunders. I've spoken to him a number of occasions. Really nice guy. The interview I did with him at the gym, at West Ham Boxing Gym, the gym where I first started learning to box, was at West Ham Boxing Gym. I think the trainer's name was Frank. And he said to me, he put me in the gym with an ABA champion, my first sparring session. He said, "Oh, you did well, mate. Got good chin, got good height, got caught in the ropes, came off the ropes, fired back. That's what I like to see. But you're not Muhammad Ali." I said, "No, I'm not Muhammad Ali. I'm not smaller." And as you can see, he said, "Not for the chat. Put your head guard back on. Gonna spar again." So it was interesting. Yeah, those days at West Ham, very, very good days. Learned a lot there. Yeah, Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank Jr. Going to be a great fight, whenever it's made. I hear it's scheduled for West Ham's ground in June. Yes, I believe it's June the 20th or 26th at West Ham football ground. It's definitely going to sort of suit Billy Joe Saunders. Just to be interesting to see what Eubank Jr. does differently in this fight. Pascal, perhaps at cruiserweight, too small for heavyweight. Agreed. Chris Clinton says he has to start fast. Chris Eubank Jr. will be a must-see, and the build will be fun to watch, of course. IJ, change the subject for a minute. I followed Apollo James Jackson on YouTube and has gone quiet on his account. I've seen an interview with you both there on Spencer Oliver. Spencer Foron, is Apollo okay? No, this is, I don't really talk about this too much, but it troubles me because I haven't seen Apollo James Jackson for years, and it's concerning. Apollo James Jackson made some very, 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 before the death of Dean Powell, and a lot of people wouldn't be privy to this, I was actually lined up to do a phone interview from Grenada with Dean Powell. This was in 2012. Dean rang me and spoke to me about Apollo. He said to me, you know Apollo. And I warned Apollo. I said to Apollo about his antics, that he really needs to keep him in check. And anybody who knows the history of Apollo James Jackson, a great. He was actually one of my inspirations to get into doing boxing, actually, and he was very forthright with his views. He didn't think very much of Frank Warren, and I think he was the guy who officially called him Fish Eyes. Apollo went to America and he interviewed some of the great fighters. Joe Frazier, he interviewed Evander Holyfield. You know, he was quirky, had his own style, and there are a lot of people across YouTube today who've got their own style, but this guy was unique. He was the guy who introduced me to Don Charles. He introduced me to Derek Chisora. Well, no, I met Derek Chisora and then met Don Charles afterwards in the first day. And Joe Hanks was in the gym as well. And Apollo looked at me and went, "Wow, this is your first day. You know, you've met this guy." And I met Don Charles. We ended talking for 2-3 hours. How was I to know that little than a week or two later, I'd be in the car with Don Charles and traveling to Blue Water to cover Derek Chisora against David Haye and turn up to Blue Water for Derek Chisora's workout. It was my baptism of fire almost to get into boxing journalism. So Apollo James Jackson, I owe a great deal to. If anyone saw my interview with Adam Booth, my interview with Callum Blue Shell, and a few others, my first interview with Frank Warren, that's the first day I'd actually gone out and did an interview. It was in Camden, and Apollo gave me his camera, set me up like a kipper, absolutely set me up like a kipper, gave me a camera, and you know, you should check your camera before you go, you should. And I had half a battery on my phone. I was excited. I was going to see David Haye. I was going to talk to Derek Chisora. The world's media was there. I was going to be a part of something big. I just rushed out. I got there on time. I met people from Sky. I got people from BBC. And then like Adam Booth, he actually obviously clicked that he saw me from my YouTube videos. He put it out and said to me, "Yeah, I'll be with you in a minute." And I got to interview Adam Booth, and that's when he called me what's he called me? A mystic. He said to me, he said, "What, are you a mystic or what?" I said, "I think Kay's coming about 15 and a half stone." And then he came and called me a mystic, and he said to me that, you know, Booth, the way he is, a man of many sharp, intelligent words. But it was a very good interview I did with him, just because Booth's the kind of guy that doesn't want to give too much away, and I was kind of prizing information out of him. And yeah, it was, but unfortunately the camera didn't record very well. So I was getting some very strange angles, and Apollo set the zoom right up on it. So, you know, it's first day and it wasn't very good. So yeah, Apollo, nice guy, really nice guy. But after he made his last statements about Francis Warren and Spencer Ferron, if you notice, the YouTube channel went down, and sadly Dean Powell passed away. And I never did get the interview with Dean Powell. I was shocked when I heard that he passed away. I mean, it was only the day before I was talking to Dean Powell on the phone, and the next day he passed away. Apollo is no longer nowhere to be seen or heard of. I haven't heard of Apollo. I haven't heard of him or seen him. I've made contact. I tried to ring his phone, no answer. He has disappeared, and I find it very odd that he just completely disappeared. I mean, his YouTube account wiped. I've left him various messages. Apollo, if you're out there, just say hello and let me know that you're safe and well. Been worried about you for years, brother. So yeah, Apollo James Jackson, an inspiration. I can't say he wasn't certain inspiration to me, and one of the leading guys in boxing for me. So shout out to Apollo James Jackson, and obviously rest in peace, Dean Powell, great matchmaker. Yes, Nigel Benn's son Conor to get in a fight with Eubank Jr. Can see it. Conor Benn is the fight for Barbados Olympics. Yes, there's a backstory even about that. Nigel Benn's, I think either his niece or his daughter, I'm not sure which one it was. Back in the day, before the Frank Bruno Boxing Academy started, I was working with Wayne Llewellyn, former British heavyweight, and Julius Francis, British heavyweight champion. And I was doing boxing for schools, working with boxing for schools. I was doing some boxing coaching in Bethnal Green. A fantastic time of my life. And Wayne, if you're watching the show, big shout out to you, doing a massive world of good for boxing in the schools, seeing how that has converted a lot of these young people. They, you know, doing the bleep tests and the workouts, fantastic, working those guys and girls out. And we've discovered that by doing the boxing workouts, a lot of these young people who were not focused, you know, in classes, we had more focus, and those bleep tests were killers. But yeah, what was I saying? We went into a lot of youth offenders centres and stuff like that. A lot of the young people that got booted out of school, excluded. We went to these centres and worked with them. And one particular centre we went to after school, I did an after-school boxing club. All these boxing sessions were done in Kent, the after-school ones. And I remember specifically, it was even Nigel Benn's niece or his daughter in Kent, in Bromley. And I took her on the pads. My God, she could punch. Threw all the punches correctly. Nice jab on her. Good right hand. So that's what I remember of Nigel Benn's, I think, cousin or daughter, his daughter. So shout out to Nigel Benn if he's watching the show. All respect to Nigel Benn. Great fighter. I actually like the thing about Ben talking about Carl Froch. You know, that is one situation I would love to put Nigel Benn in a time machine and just wind the clock back to about the time he fought Eubank the second time. No, in fact, no, wind the clock back even further, back to the 94 Michael Watson, and put that Nigel Benn in the ring with Carl Froch. I would love to see how Carl Froch would have dealt with that Nigel Benn in the 94 at Finsbury Park. That Nigel Benn was absolutely savage. Right, finally, the big fight, James Kirkland against Canelo Alvarez. I'm going over by 10 minutes. James Kirkland, Canelo Alvarez, the final fight to talk about in the night. Can Canelo step up? Can he do the goods? Can he produce the goods? You know what, boxing fans, I have to be honest with you. Canelo, I've always seen him as, you know, the guy with good looks and charm, throws a lot of punches, and he's devastating when he puts his punches together. Now he fights a guy with James Kirkland. This is what I'm talking about. A fight where, you know, the guy's going to hit you back. And Canelo is not Mr. Defensive Wizard here. Canelo can get hit. And as you saw from the Mayweather fight, he gets hit constantly. And when he starts getting hit, he doesn't know how to change. Canelo's one of these guys, if you let him come at you, he'll be throwing combinations all night long. When you start to hit Canelo back, his output seems to reduce. I believe Kirkland has to land early. Kirkland, though, has a chin problem, I think. He gets rocked in fights. He's exciting. And I don't know about Kirkland, for me, it's a mental thing, I believe. It's Kirkland's mental approach. If Kirkland's up for this fight, and I know Ann Wolf has been key to Kirkland's resurgence. I know Ann Wolf has been key, but I don't believe Ann Wolf was with Kirkland in his fight, and I believe he did need Wolf in this fight, Kirkland. Now I believe, in my opinion, that there could be an upset on the cards on this night, because Canelo fought a lot of guys from the lower weight division and made a lot of defense against smaller guys. Now fights a big guy who can punch. I believe this is a great fight. I believe if Kirkland's to win this fight, he wins it early. And I believe down the stretch, Canelo wins late. But you know, it's just what Kirkland turns up. It really does depend on what Kirkland turns up. But for me, Canelo is the man, favorite. I'm going to go with the upset with this one, because I know Canelo looks like a beast against guys that are smaller than him, but now he's in a ring with a guy that can crack. He's got nice, fast hands. Canelo has no real defense. I don't think Canelo, I don't call Canelo a boxer. I think he's a brawler boxer, brawler puncher. That's what he is. Don't think he's a boxer. There's no finesse to his work. And I've said before, Canelo's one of these guys. I think he's very robotic. He's very 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see he's on the pads, and when he throws his punches, look like it's on the pads. He's been throwing punches. I don't know if his he's very. I think not coordinate's not wrong. Just very robotic in his combination punching. Where someone like Kirkland's much more, you know, got a lot more rhythm in what he does. So when the punches come out from Kirkland, they'll come out more rhythm. You know, I don't know who's got the fast hands between the two. Going to be a great fight. I'm going with Kirkland to cause the upset here because I just like Kirkland's come out and go for you. And I think he's not going to be intimidated by Canelo. And I'm not really impressed by Canelo's resume. I think they're trying to build Canelo up to be his beast. I think they're trying to build Canelo up to be this next superstar, the next Mexican Oscar de la Hoya. Yeah, you know, I think that's what they're trying to do. I think that Kirkland stands, if any, a very good chance. It's a genuine fight here. And I'm going to go Kirkland. He's a heavy-handed man. He looks like a man that don't mess around. But it's his mental approach. With guys like Kirkland, you never know what's going to turn up and how he's going to turn up or what his ambition is. I believe Kirkland wanted this fight. It's going to happen. Let's just see if he can bring it on the night. I'm going with Kirkland for the upset. Nigel Benn was a fighter who had all fight fans would love. Sorry, Nigel Benn was a fighter who all fight fans would love to fight. Like a great man, always heart on his sleeve, and always left everything in the ring. Absolutely, of course, Nigel Benn's great fight against John McLennan when he got knocked out of the ring in the first round, and a lot of people believe he should have been allowed back in the ring that night. Went on to stop Joe McLennan in a tragic fight for Joe McLennan. What a warrior and what a fighter. Yes, Bruce Wayne says, but Kirkland's a very dodgy chin. Yeah, that's one point. He has got a dodgy chin. But, Bruce, I would like to say to you, I know you say he's got a dodgy chin, but if you look at the Angulo fight, and you look at the other guy he fought as well, where he was rocked badly. I remember he was almost out on his feet in the first round. Came round, I'm wondering, you know, people got dodgy chins. I don't know it's dodgy because they like their punches, they leave themselves exposed, so they're more worried about throwing punches than their own chin itself. But he has great recovery and heart, Kirkland. I would like to know what happens when Canelo gets cracked and hurt on the chin. What he does, because you know we always talk about people having a good chin, but I'd like to know what Canelo's chin's like against a big puncher. It'd be very interesting. So I know, Bruce, when you said and good evening, that Kirkland's got a very dodgy chin. He has, and Canelo could win this fight inside the distance. But like I said, I'm going to Kirkland to do the fight inside the distance. If he's going to beat Canelo, it's going to be inside the distance. After 5, it's Canelo for me. So that's it. I think it's just a pick and fight for me because I don't know what sort of mood Kirkland's going to come in, but if he comes in with a bad man mentality that's going to guard it and take it to Canelo, we're going to be in for one hell of a fight. GGG, the talk of GGG. He's cleaned up the division. Cotter will not fight him. Surely GGG will move up to 168. It does appear he does have the power. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I don't think GGG will move up to the 168-pound division anytime soon. If you look at who his trainer is, Abel Sanchez, I said this before. James Alabashir and myself discussed this at length. He used to manage and train Terry Norris. Terry Norris stayed in his division for a long time. And I believe that GGG is going to, when you take cleanup, I believe their mission is to become the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, which doesn't bode very well for Billy Joe Saunders or Chris Eubank Jr. The fight, there are 2 guys I would love to see GGG fight. I would like to see him fight Andy Lee, because you know Andy Lee has got one-punch knockout power. Don't business about what they say about Lee's got a dodgy chin and all the rest of it. Lee has got one-punch knockout power, and he's got world-class power. He dropped Quillin. He knocked out John Jackson. John Jackson. Was John Jackson knocked out? It was Julius Jackson's brother. He knocked out the other guy who was feared, unbeaten, and a lot of people expect him to be world champion. Lee pulled out the left hand. Lee's not a great boxer, but one thing he can do is punch. And the problem with GGG, and I'm saying it here, is that he doesn't move his head much. He has no form of defense. He just walks forward in straight lines like that. Yes, he knows how to cut a person off. But for me, GGG, and I've spoken to Abel Sanchez about this before, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but Abel Sanchez says, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So they believe GG's got a great chin and he'll keep walking forward. And if you're fighting non-punchers, that's fine. If you're fighting guys that, you know, you can be a puncher. Now, there's another thing. You can be a puncher, but when you, okay, let me give you an example. You can be a puncher. If you're a puncher who believes in yourself, mentality, you're a puncher. The difference between a puncher who is determined and a puncher who is scared. Now, a puncher who's determined will punch right through, right at you, like that. A puncher who's scared is going to punch on whatever. He's going to do this stuff, which means it's non-committal. He's like throws his punch, but he's moving backwards, but punching forwards. That sort of punching. It's no snap on those punches. So when you see guys like, yeah, he's a puncher, yeah, he's a puncher, but the mentality of a puncher. Now, if you put Nigel Benning with someone like GGG, you put Julian Jackson, that mentality. You talk about Jerome McLennan, puncher. These guys want to knock you out. They ain't talking about, your reputation and how you're a puncher. Because you know what? I'm going to hit you before you hit me. So a guy like, guys with that sort of mentality, not the, I'm going to come around and I'm going to fight you, and I'm going to try and stick around and see how long I'm taking to the second half of the fight. Anybody who starts talking about, and they're fighting GGG and start talking about, well, let's see what he does in the second half of the fight, forget them. Forget this second half of the fight rubbish. You've got to hit and hurt GGG from round one. And if you're not a puncher, if your record does not show that you're a puncher, right, and you're not unbeaten and you're not a puncher, right, and you haven't got that real dog mentality, so you know what, I'm going to mess you up tonight. How many guys has GGG fought who've got the mentality that says, you know what, I'm gonna mess you up tonight. I'm gonna mess you up tonight. Them sort of crazy fighters, I'm gonna mess you up tonight. You know, really that fight, I'm gonna mess you up tonight. That type of a guy is what GGG needs to fight. Everyone who fights GGG is like, yeah, well, he's a good fighter and he's a puncher. Yeah, he's a puncher, all right. But nobody, and people have been knocked out before with it. You know, like poor old Martin Murray. Poor old Martin Murray. He's strong. Yeah, he's strong. Can't punch. Not known as a knockout artist. But yeah, he went 11 rounds to GGG. I told everyone he was going to get a pounding, an absolute pounding, because nothing's coming back. He's just going forward, and then Martin Murray just soaking it all up. So he's brave and he's strong. And look how strong Murray is. No, not really. You mean strong for what? Strong for a beating? Great. So you need GGG needs to fight a man, and I want to see a man. I don't want to see a man posing up with GGG, looking in the face like this, and you know he ain't got no punch. What's that? That doesn't prove nothing. It just proves that you've got a great chin against non-punchers. Let's see you fight a guy who wants to take your head off. Let's see you fight a guy that really wants to put it on you. Like, really. I mean, Canelo, Cotto, no, because Cotto is not a fully blown middleweight. Danny Jacobs, you see, Danny Jacobs has got heart. Danny Jacobs has got heart, and he can punch. Good fight, Danny Jacobs. But the guy from Canada, and every time I go on this show, I keep forgetting his name. The guy from Canada, that guy's a lethal puncher. I'd love to see him fight GGG, right? But sadly, the middleweight division is poor, and Chris Eubank Jr., sorry, is not a puncher. He's not a puncher. So, you know, I don't know how people are thinking that and the other thing, Chris Eubank can get hit. He can be hit. And GGG will find him. And there's one thing, talk about fighting against other punchers. But when you fight against a guy who has got lethal knockout power, that's a certain type of mentality you've got to have in there. And Eubank's already been beaten once already. If it was unbeaten, it'd be different. But he's been beaten. He knows how to be beat. He might not accept it, but he's been beaten. And that's a simple aura about you. He's got fast hands. He's not ready for GGG. I'm sorry. Billy Joe Saunders, again, not a big puncher, but a good boxer. Good boxer. And he may stick around for a few rounds. But as soon as that stamina starts to run out on Mr. Saunders, Mr. GGG is going to take his time, as he does, cutting the range, closing it down, taking his time, doing his nonsense, walking forward, taking a few punches, walking forward, and then he's going to start landing them body shots on Saunders, and he's going to close Saunders down, and around 8 or 9 he stops Saunders, I believe. Lemieux, that's the boy, that's the man. I want to see Lemieux fight GGG. That's legit power there, because you know Lemieux can bang, he can knock you over. That's legit power. Now, let me put GG in with Lemieux. Lemieux's not got a great defense. He's been knocked out before. Yeah, he's been knocked out before, but Lemieux has got lethal knockout power. Lethal knockout power. Yeah, I know, Lucy, you rate Eubank Jr. Yes, I know you rate Eubank Jr. But we're talking levels here. Eubank Jr. against GGG. What you want? You want murder? You want murder in your hands? Look, I think GGG would have given people even like Eubank problems. I do. Because I think he does take a good shot. I think he knows how to close the range down. And I think it's the body shots he would have landed on Eubank. Eubank never liked body shots. Ben's different. You need to be a savage with GGG. You need to be walking in there, throwing bombs from round one, bombs away. You need to be landing hard shots early on him. And I just don't know how many explosive middleweights we've got around today that could do that. Danny Jacobs is a possibility. Peter Quillin, no. Peter Quillin's a good fighter, don't get me wrong. And he does punch. But Peter Quillin's another one of them guys. Have you seen Peter Quillin fight? He always looks scared when he's fighting. He always looks like he's worried about getting hit. And I saw him got dropped by Lee. Yeah, he got dropped by Lee. Well, GGG will keep him there. I know Quillin's a puncher, but he doesn't give me that sort of like, you know, I'm coming to take you out sort of mentality. So no, I don't. GGG, I think their plan is to become undisputed middleweight champion. But what they'll do, what his camp will do, is keep on talking about, I'll fight Floyd Mayweather, I'll fight this person, I'll fight Andre Ward. But you know what? He has no interest in fighting Andre Ward, because you know in the Andre Ward fight, he's going to get hit back against a guy who's naturally bigger, naturally stronger than him, and GGG don't want that. So I think GGG is going to clean up the middleweight division. I really does. I really do. Middleweight, Quillin's tied the weight. Well, Quillin, if you do not know, is actually starring in a movie as either Floyd Mayweather Sr. or his uncle Roger Mayweather. He's in a movie, so look out for that. So I don't, you know what? I don't know how dedicated Peter Quillin is to the sport. Even I don't know. He vacated the WBO title when he had a decent fight coming up, and then he went and fought Lee, and I don't know. I've never been a big fan of Peter Quillin. Don't know. Danny Jacobs got a lot of time for. Good fight. I don't even want to see Canelo versus GGG again. Fighting small guys, moving up. This guy. Let's see what it says. Lemieux started his career off well, but as we found that GGG has a top amateur career second to none. For me, Jason Quigley, a top Irish fighter, signed to Golden Boys, one to watch. Absolutely, Jason Quigley. Yeah, he's a good fighter. Again, I keep saying the name Rashidi Ellis. Check him out. Good fighter, very good fighter. And of course, Julius Jackson. He's one to watch as well. Very good fighter. Tony Harrison could be a dangerous matchup for GGG, despite the fact he's only fighting at 154 pounds at the moment. There's a sparring session between the two on YouTube, and Harrison is holding his own. Yeah, Harrison probably is holding his own. I don't know too much about Tony Harrison. I know Julius Jackson's been sparring with him, and Julius Jackson has taken GGG's best and thrown back, and he's his chief sparring partner. So I don't know. True, he has only had 6 fights, 6 wins, and 6 knockouts. Top amateur. Yeah. Well, let's see how he does as a pro. So I'll keep my eye out on Tony Harrison. I think I'm going to have to do a serious look at the middleweight division and see my pick on the first guy to beat GGG in the middleweight division, because I believe they're going to keep on calling out everybody. They'll even call out Godzilla, but they have no intention of moving out the middleweight division until they've unified. And I think they'll definitely chase Cotto down because he's a small middleweight. I don't think he's a bona fide middleweight, and I think it's a disgrace that Miguel Cotto is fighting for the middleweight championship of the world as a catchweight. I think it's disgusting. Marvin Hagler wouldn't have had a catchweight for middleweight championship of the world. Thomas Hearns wouldn't have fought for a catchweight middleweight championship of the world. Sugar Ray Robinson wouldn't have fought for the catchweight middleweight championship of the world. But this guy Cotta is fighting for the catchweight middleweight championship. It's a joke against Daniel Gill. I just, you know, Miguel Cotto, I've lost all sort of respect for Miguel Cotto because it's catchweight nonsense. Absolutely lost all sort of respect for that man. Really have. Sorry, you know, sorry. And I think he's a fraud at middleweight. Maybe at light middleweight, possibly. Definitely a top welterweight. Definitely a top welterweight. And a Hall of Famer probably at welterweight. Light middle, not so sure. And middleweight, joke. He's a joke at middleweight. I'm sorry. And you just have to look at his first defense against Daniel Gill at catchweight. Says it all. Do you think the Fury versus Klitschko fight will happen this year? Yes, I do. And I have some further thoughts about Klitschko Fury. And it's this. And I want fight fans to think this out a second. I want people to stop saying that Fury wins this fight because of his size. Stop it. Stop it right now. That's absolute garbage. Fury's going to win the fight because he's taller than Klitschko. No, garbage. People don't win fights because of height. People win fights because of boxing skills. Now, if you turn around and say to me, Fury's going to win this fight out of boxing skills, okay, now you're giving the man some credit. But don't just say Fury's going to win a fight because he's bigger than Klitschko, because that's garbage, absolute garbage. In that case, then, you know what, then sticking, what's his name, Tom Dallas against Fury, against Klitschko, because he's tall, all right? Garbage. I believe that Fury stands a good chance in this fight, but again, I spoke to Brian Jennings and he broke the fight down for me. And Brian said to me, in his own words, he says, look, for me, I was defensively responsible. I was able to get in, throw my punches, not throw as many punches as I wanted to, but I wasn't able, because of experience, I wasn't able to get off the way I wanted to get off. And that's because of Vladimir Klitschko. But remember, he says, I was able to take what Vladimir had and give back. Will Tyson Fury be able to take what Vladimir's got to give and throw back? There's no doubt Fury's going to come out there with a mentality to try and take Klitschko out of there, you know. But we need to know whether Fury can absorb that punishment, those punches from Klitschko. Remember now, when you talk about Fury being tall and Klitschko being tall as well, Klitschko being taller, Klitschko's used to fighting taller opponents, and Klitschko fights better against taller opponents. There is a concern there in this fight. Fury, I still would like to see him have a warm-up fight before he fought Klitschko, because then you could, you know, look at it. People keep telling me about the Hughie Fury thing. Doesn't work for me. Not good enough to prepare for. So, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see Tyson Fury and his chief sparring partner for Klitschko be David Price. Chief sparring partner. You've got a guy there who's got the greatest chin, but it's got knockout power in both hands. I think he'd be a great sparring partner and a great warm-up fight for somebody like Klitschko. I don't think you can go from fighting Derek Chisora to Klitschko. And people talking about experience said, well, Brian Jennings had no experience going into the fight against Klitschko. Well, can somebody tell me what experience Tyson Fury has going in against Vladimir Klitschko? That's my concern right there. And this isn't me shooting down Fury and saying, oh, you Fury, now he's fighting Klitschko, I'm turning my back on Fury. No, this is just being unbiased here. You're just being unbiased. I believe that Klitschko Jennings stood a real good chance against Klitschko. I really did. I thought he'd push Klitschko. I guess my thoughts were right. He did push Klitschko. He did catch Klitschko. He was able to reach Klitschko. In this fight with Fury, I believe the concern first is, you know, Fury's now fighting somebody who's going to be able to touch this all the time. Be able to touch this all the time. You make a mistake against Klitschko and you can be on the canvas. He can hit with the right hand, he can hit with the left hook. I believe you might even see the uppercut in this fight. So, you know, and he's at world level. Is he the same force? I don't know. Don't know. It's a great fight. A great fight. AJ, I've said it before and I'll say it again in terms of Anthony Joshua. Let's go and see what the fans are thinking. The one, will AJ lose as Tony Sims is out with Ricky Burns this weekend? No. The one, I will say this much, I don't rate Tony Sims. I don't see Tony Sims as the man to guide AJ to becoming the heavyweight championship of the world. I'm sorry. No. I don't even know. You know what? I'm convinced, again, I could be wrong here, but I think AJ is with Tony Sims because he joined Matchroom and Eddie said, if you join Matchroom, one of the deals are you train with Tony Sims. That's it. What the hell does Tony Sims know about training for the heavyweight champion of the world? I'm sorry. Buglioni is a perfect example. Buglioni had technical flaws. He was getting hit too often. His hands were coming down by sides. He was too open for punches. And I kept saying fight after fight after fight, and the adjustments were not being made. Now we've got him, Anthony Joshua, doing the same old stuff over and over and over again. I'm sorry. You need to have an experienced trainer in the corner. Ronnie Shields, definitely agree with you on that one. Ronnie Shields. James Ali Bashir is another. Eddie Mustafa Mohammed, John David Jackson, Freddie Roach, I'm not sure. Freddie Roach teaches great attack. If you want to be a great attacking fighter, great, but not defense. What's the brother's name again? Hopkins trainer. I think he's a great trainer. Richardson. Now Richardson, I think he's a good, very good trainer. Richardson, I'd like to see with him, or even the guy who was training Tommy Brooks. I'd like to see Tommy Brooks working with Joshua. Those guys, those sort of trainers I'd like to see with Joshua, or even with Team Klitschko for longevity. But it's not about longevity about Joshua, is it? It's about making a fast buck with Eddie. And I think that it's crash and burn with Joshua. I really do. I don't care if Simpson's a nice guy. We're not in this business with nice guys. We're in this business to win. We're in this business to hurt business, and you need to be able to set up a camp which is going to secure you the heavyweight champion of the world, not because your promoter is best mates with Sims. It don't work like that. I'm sorry, I do not agree. Okay, any thoughts on Clevy versus Brave? I reckon Clevy should get Vince back, as his diet needs to be cleaned up. Never seen an athlete eat pie and junk. Should hook up with muscle food or soulmate food. Mate, the one, I think that Nathan Cleverly was ruined by Kovalev. You know what? You go back and think about this. This was Nathan Cleverly's idea to fight Kovalev. Sometimes fighters need to be told to shut up and sit down. He kept complaining about not getting the big fights. He went against Frank Warren's wishes and decided to go and fight Kovalev. As far as I'm concerned, Clevy should have fought Hopkins. Because even if he got beat by Hopkins, he wouldn't have got hammered the way he got hammered by Kovalev. And I don't think Cleverly has recovered. I think Braver's heavy-handed. And I pick Bramer to win the fight by knockout, personally. Bramer's he's a nasty piece of work. I don't know why Bramer doesn't fight like the top light heavyweights in the world, because I'd like to see him fight, at least have a go. I believe that he stops Cleverly, really, honestly. I don't think Cleverly is the fighter that he was. I don't think Cleverly's got the biggest heart. And if you look at the fight he had at cruiserweight against Bellew, he just sat on the ropes and just let Cleverly beat him. And in the mind, he was going to himself, my God, just let this go 12 rounds. Just let this go 12 rounds, or let this guy knock me out either. I'm just exhausted. Comes back down to light heavyweight. I'm sorry. I thought he said that he couldn't make light heavyweight anymore. Need to move up to cruiserweight, whatever garbage that was all about. Sorry. Cleverly, Bramer knocks Cleverly out, and no more Cleverly. I'm sorry. I like Bramer. Fight should happen a long time ago. Bramer cleans out Cleverly. Sorry. Lucy says, instead of 5, it should be 50. I need to promote Bayloric TV boxing. Okay, thank you, Lucy. Thank you, appreciate that. All good things take time to grow, Lucy. Well, Mr. I'm going to call you Mr. God One. I'm going to say I would disagree that all things take time to grow. There are some things that, and you should know this yourself, having 12 kids, that I'm sure it did take a long time to grow in terms of doing the good deed. But anyway, moving on. Chris Goulding, you must believe JZ Bashir would love to work with AJ. Yes, I believe he would. Another heavyweight I'd like to see who's making his comeback, and if he's watching, Dave Allen, the White Rhino from up in Doncaster. His career's been a bit stop-start. He's going to be coming back now under new, I think he's Steffi Bull, former fighter, I believe, Bull for Khan. I think he's with Dave Allen now. So I'd like to see Bashir and him worked out once or twice before. Nice to see Bashir look after him. I believe, for me, any fighter who's serious of becoming a world champion, it's nice to have some experienced eyes looking at a fight, looking at it, looking and seeing things that, you know, experience how to train, how to prepare tactically for a fight, you know, things that you miss out on. I think you always stand a better chance of experienced cornerman. No, good things go fast. Lucy Marshall. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Lucy, without a shadow of a doubt. You did call Kovalev fight. I did. Would A Force Audley be a good mentor for AJ? I can tell you something about Audley. Audley, I first met Audley when I was at Tottenham College all those years ago. Yes, Tottenham College. And as there's a chair right here, that's how close me and Audley used to sit together at Tottenham College. We were doing the City and Guilds 481 Recreation Leisure course, a management course, parts 1 and 2. This was the year of 1997. I left school in 96, 97, Tottenham College. And this tall 6'5" man by the name of Audley Harrison was sitting right next to me. And I'll tell you a short story. Audley, I wanted him sitting next to Audley, and I said to him, you know what, Audley, I've seen Lennox, I've talked to Lennox. He went, really? You spoke to Lennox? I said, yeah, I talked to Lennox all the time. Proper rubbish. I was telling Audley, like, for weeks. I said, yeah, Lennox rang me. He said, give me his number, man. I said, no, can't do that. Me and Lennox are pals, man, you know. And it was funny. But I just wound Audley up like crazy about it. But Audley would chip out of class and have to go because he had amateur fights to have. And I remember once we had to do preparation for a practical. We had to show practicals in our sport. And I was doing cricket at the time, and Audley was doing boxing. And Audley said, you know what, I want you to tutor my class. And, you know, Audley said I should give up the cricket and go into boxing. He didn't know, I actually did get into boxing. I was about to turn pro with, I was in the same gym as Steve Robinson's old trainer, who was former WBO featherweight champion, Ronnie Rush. I was in the same gym as him, and I was regularly sparring and training. I think our first fight was going to be at the Millennium Stadium on the undercard. I was going to be fighting, and yeah, had a good hook up there. He was a good trainer, very good trainer. In fact, all the trainers I had were experienced trainers, and I believe after training in America, I came back to start my pro career in the UK, and it was in Wales at the time, and it was a great experience. And although I had the chronic fatigue illness, it was a great experience. And Audley Harrison, I think he could be a good mentor, but my concern with Audley is he'd be a great mentor in the sense that eventually the world's going to hear about Audley Harrison, the truth about Audley Harrison, and there's a lot of stories out there that are not quite true about him, and he has put himself out at times, and Audley has been in some ways misrepresented, in other ways has done himself no favors. The yes I can was always rebuffed by David Hay, no you can't. He'd be a good mentor because simply for the fact that all the things he did wrong, he could probably say, look, I did that and I didn't do it very well. Audley was trying to be a promoter and you know, promote his own fights and fight at the same time. Great idea, because he just didn't want the likes of Warren and the rest to take all his money. But at the end of the day, it became a bit too much, and he was trying to do something that the top people obviously didn't like. And as you saw in the end, it didn't end very well for Mr. Audley. Good night, Mr. God. Audley is a great talker. In my opinion, he could definitely be a great motivational speaker. Good night, Mr. God. Good night, guys, and thanks, RJ, for a nice evening. It helps me out. Ah, great, thank you. I'm glad I could be helped. The one, thoughts on Richard Towers working as bodyguard for the Booth camp. Since he's lost to Big Daddy Brown, he's had one fight and he's getting on, 35 years old, young. Bashir had a lot of good things to say about Towers. Don't know. I think you've got to question Towers' heart in the game. He probably is making more money now, probably doing what he's doing, than actually boxing. So, you know, I don't know. Richard Towers really fancies being in the boxing game anymore. I think the Brown fight, he took a bad beating by Brown, and yeah. The one is the main reason for the success of Welsh fighters such as Joe Kazaki due to Wales having trees and hence the development of stamina and power through wood chopping. Don't say that too loud to Carl Froch. He'll tell you that he fought George Groves 80,000 or 60,000 in Wembley, and he was chopping trees, and that's why he got his power to knock out George Groves. He's never knocked any other world-class fighter out apart from that fight. And and Taylor kind of just fell down. He was just exhausted. And by that point, everyone was knocking Taylor out anyway. Yeah, I think Wales is amazing. Their landscape, the mountains they've got in Wales in terms of fitness, unbelievable. They've got great terrain out in Wales, and I remember getting up 4 o'clock in the morning and going for runs. My trainer, Ronnie Rush, who formerly trained WBO featherweight champion of the world, Steve Robinson. He made 6 successful defenses and was beaten by Nas for the world title in the end. That was Nas's first world title, actually. I remember getting up in the morning and taking these long runs in Cardiff. Lived in a place called Ely. That's a place where Barry Jones was as well, the Box Nation commentator. And we'd run, I'd go running in the mornings, and my trainer, he was terrible. He was terrible. He'd run his car, he'd have the bumper of the car right at the back. He'd make sure his bumper was hitting the back of my foot as I was running. And he said, you know what, we're gonna go. He tricked me. So we went running. So I want you to run to the top of the hill. And me being a Londoner, what the hell do I know about hills? Going up the hill, I was going up and up, right, run up this hill. Ran up this hill, I thought, well, you know, I've done the runs in Brighton up and down the steps, shouldn't be a problem, done all the training around, I should be fine. Going up this hill now, gone around the first bend, gone around the second bend, gone around the third bend, gone around the fourth bend, gone around the fifth bend, gone around the sixth bend, hey, I'm going up about and got to the top now, I'm like, he says, now come down. I said, right, I'll show him. I'm telling you, my legs were gone. Absolutely. Altitude, legs gone. There was nothing in the legs. I thought I was going to collapse, literally, because I'd never been up that high. So absolutely, the fitness training out there is unbelievable. They work hard in Wales, absolutely. Thought Al Wolf was trainer and fighter. Canelo and Kirkland prediction. The one I predicted that I believe Kirkland, although he's got a dodgy chin, can cause a real upset here because Canelo fought a lot of smaller guys, and I believe when you start to hit Canelo back, his output of punches goes down. And I believe that Canelo is a very good fighter. I think they're trying to push Canelo though. I think he's more height than substance. He's big, he's strong, but I'm not sure. And this fight's going to tell us a lot more about Canelo. Kirkland's mentality. He looks like a thug. He looks like a guy who really means business. And Wolf as a fighter was a great fighter, real serious business fighter. I liked his mentality as a fighter. I wish that Layla Ali had fought her. Never happened. Another fighter I'd like and Wolf to have fought was I'd like to see him fight Lucia Riker. Oh, what an excellent fighter! And while I'm at it at the moment, I have to say, stop and say, Shout out to Ava Knight. Shout out to what's her name again? Naomi. I forgot the girl's last name. She's fighting in a few weeks' time for defending her world title. I think she's a bantamweight. She's defending her world title soon. And also the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, Cecilia Brækhus, great fighter, and great to see that she's getting some coverage in America now. It's a great move for her being in the American States side, undisputed champion, got all the belts. I'd like to see Cecilia Brækhus more often on television. I'd like to see her speaking more and promoting the game more. I'd love to see more of her. A great fighter, and I think we need to see more of Cecilia Brækhus. Okay, why is there so little press on Ricky Burns going bankrupt due to the stupidity of Edward Hearn? Hearn knew that Burns was still under contract warrant and still lied to Burns' face. Yeah, I spoke about this earlier. A lot of people seem to give Eddie Hearn a lot of credit. I think he's a charismatic man, but it's like a second-hand car salesman. If you see what he's done with Ricky Burns, which is the start of things. Yes, that's it. Bosquez, Naomi Bosquez, Naomi. Shout out to you, Naomi Bosquez, another good fighter, female fighter. Shout out to you, and hope that you do well with your fight. Hopefully, I'll get an interview with you shortly. All for women boxing. Love women's boxing. I think it's great. It's great to see it back on television again. Yeah, I can't say I'm a big fan of Eddie Hearn. Being honest, very charismatic promoter. Don't like all the Anthony Joshua is going to do this and blowing smoke up people's asses. I just don't like it. Certainly, he's got to do it as a promoter. And the whole thing between Scott Quigg and what's his name, Carl Frampton, another situation where Eddie Hearn was unable to match the buying power of Al Heyman. I don't believe that Eddie Hearn would dig deep in his pockets because they've got other things to concern themselves with other than boxing. Boxing's an addition, not a main focus. So that's where my problems are with Eddie Hearn. And I think that you look again, you've got the James DeGale situation. You've got the situation with Frampton and Quigg. I don't know how deep in his pockets Hearns are prepared to make for that fight to happen. And this situation with Ricky Burns. You know, a lot of people say a lot of nasty things about Frank Warren. I suspect that because of Eddie Hearn's charismatic ways that they will be able to look over that. But Ricky Burns is a nice guy. But again, Ricky Burns made his own decision. He chose to leave Warren, so you've got to take some of the blame to Ricky Burns as well. Callum Smith back tomorrow. Yes, Callum Smith trained by Joe Gallagher. Now I want to talk about Joe Gallagher. For a second. Good trainer, but you know something? And fight fans, you're with me? How can you make a proper gauge of how good a trainer is if 90% of their fights are 90-10 fights? For example, 90% chance your fighter is going to win the fight and 10% your chances the fighter is going to lose the fight. I think the only way we're going to know Joe Gallagher is a really good trainer is when his fighter is in with top caliber opponents, our world champions, top world-class fighters. Then we know how good Joe Gallagher is as a trainer. At the moment, he's very good at collecting British titles. We know he's good for that. Is he good at European and world level? For me, the verdict is out on Joe Gallagher, which leads me on to Callum Smith. He's tall. He certainly can crack at the level he's been cracking people out. A good boxer. Seems to have the complete package there. Let's just see what he does when he moves up in class. But Callum Smith's one to watch. Rocky Fielding, shocking, awful, don't rate him. And I'd love to see Callum Smith, Frank Buglioni. That's the fight that has to be made sooner rather than later. Collision course We both know they can crack. We don't know how good Callum Smith's chin really is, and that's a fight I want to see. Yeah, he has got a lot of mouth in that Gallagher. Got a lot to say for himself. Very opinionated, lot to say for himself, and it's a whole Sky thing, isn't it? Being with Sky, Gallagher's one of the best trainers in the world. He's one of the best trainers in Britain. No one goes past that. One of the best trainers in the world in the UK is Brendan Ingle. And don't you ever forget that. Don't ever forget Brendan Ingle. That man brought world championships home. Brought it home. World champions. You know, from Naz to Nelson to Witter. Yeah, to continue. Like top class fighters. Reeled off from British, Commonwealth, European, world level. Brendan Ingle, a trainer that should be getting for me that should be getting a lot more accolades and should be, you know, having more say in the world or the British scene in terms of advising trainers. Far better trainer than Adam Booth ever was. A far better trainer than Gallagher. Probably the best trainer we've got in this country. McCracken, he's got Carl Froch. Love to see what he does with other fighters. But I'll tell you something, if Froch shouldn't have that incredible chin that he has, Froch would just be a domestic fighter. I'm sorry. His chin is just amazing. What happened to Clifton Mitchell's fighter, Alpha and Iqbal? Haven't heard from him for a while. Yeah, I know he was training with Fury, Team Fury. Well, it's the same thing with Eddie Chambers. Eddie Chambers joined their camp, and now I think he's in America. There were rumours that Eddie Chambers was going to give up and quit boxing. Then I heard another rumour that he's coming back to fight. Don't know. Let's see. David Price. While I'm at it, David Price confirmed to fight Ustinov as a good fight there. Very good fight. Nice to see Price fighting a big lump in Ustinov. If he gets knocked out against Ustinov, it'll be a good fight. Thoughts on this year's version of Football Manager? The one. Do you play Football Manager? If my wife is watching this show, I hope she's not. Football Manager is a great game. 2015 is awesome. I think it's the best version yet. Realistic. I think it's amazing when you select match game. I select certain players. I remember selecting Aguero all the time for Man City. I used to select him all the time for my team, and he ended up playing for Man City in the end. Ivan Muniain is one of the guys I like to see. Barbarossa, that's another one of those fighters. And Peter Fury, yeah, definitely one of the best trainers in the world. But we need to see now. Peter Fury's done well so far. Just like I said about Joe Gallagher, I know Peter Fury's very opinionated as well. We need to see now. It's really acid test for Peter Fury. Can he bring the bacon home? Well, I don't eat bacon anymore. Can he bring the goods home at world level? I was quite stinging of Gallagher. So far, Peter Fury's tactics have been class at British, European level, and if you say world level, he fought against Steve Cunningham, who's now a world-rated fighter. Brought bacon home there. Sorry. Can he bring the goods home against Vladimir Klitschko? That's the ultimate test. It's the acid test for Peter Fury and Team Fury. Yes, so Peter Fury absolutely is up there, but his time is due to see how good Peter Fury is. The one. Do you agree that domestic European level fighters and British fighters you get huge and easy paydays? Paul Smith and DeGale both getting that money in the States. Well, DeGale, I think, is proven. I believe DeGale beats Durrell. I believe DeGale mentally is more switched on to Durrell. Durrell pulled out of box, the big box, the Super Six. A great opportunity for you to really establish yourself as a #1 fighter. But I think as well, he didn't want to fight Andre Ward. Ward would have beaten him, I believe. Durrell fought against Froch, and when Froch started putting it on Durrell, Durrell didn't want to know. Then he didn't want to know against Arthur Abraham, and I believe Fighters don't change their mental makeup. I believe if Dirrell can hurt Dirrell early in this fight, I believe the same demons are going to come back, and Dirrell can win this fight, even for stoppage or disqualification. I don't rate Dirrell's mental makeup. I rate him as a boxer. His mental makeup is very, very questionable. Paul Smith against, I spoke about it earlier. Well, Paul Smith thinks he's an elite fighter now because he fought Arthur Abraham. He's going to get a world of a beating against Andre Ward. Let's leave it at that. Anyone out there that you've not spoken to that you'd want to get on Bayloric TV? Yeah, Cecilia Breakers. Wanted to interview Cecilia Breakers for ages. She keeps stringing me along, saying that she's going to do the interview. She direct messages me and tells me she's going to do the interview. Then her management get in the way. I know she's in America now, so I think she split. I think she split from then. She went back to Sauerland. I don't know. Still going to try and get that interview. I'm going to try and talk with Ariola's manager or trainer. I think that'll be an interesting interview. Henry Ramirez, going to try and talk to him. There's a lot of interviews I'd like to do, not just boxing interviews. So yeah, there's people I'd like to talk to. In comparison to American fighters, unless they're Broner Mayweather, can only dream of these kind of paydays. Yeah, I think American fighters. I've got to say, and this is. I'm being honest, and I'm being critical to my own self. I have to say that Bayloric TV, in general, as Bayloric being an American company, which it is, and we focus more on American fighters, not because I've got to learn and be dazzled by the American way, that my wife's American. I think it's because I find the American guys far much more easier to access, to talk to. I couldn't get on Twitter and say to James Gay, hey, let's do a phone interview, or get onto Car Fraction and do a phone interview. These guys feel like they're just above board. You know, I've managed to talk to Keith Thurman, I've managed to talk to Brian Jennings, managed to talk to Bermain. Do you know the last 3 heavyweight big fights? Bermain Stavern, Brian Jennings, and now Tyson Fury coming up. Always been able to talk to these guys. Team Fury's been brilliant. I always had access to talk to their fighters, Peter Fury. But you know, been able to build relationship with fighters, and I find it very difficult to do that. There are a few fighters I have done that with. Mitchell Smith, Miles Shinkwin, 2 good fighters who are on the way up, and I do rate both of those fighters. Miles Shinkwin's got, you know, a lot of talent, and he's just signed with Box Nation, great. Julius Jackson from the Virgin Islands, great being able to talk to him. So, you know, I just liked, but a lot of these fighters don't do themselves a lot of favors. You know, in America, I have to say, they don't do themselves a lot of favors in terms of marketing. There was a time before Andre Ward really was making it into the big time. I wanted to do an interview with him, and you know, a lot of these fighters as well, their PR is, in America especially, is shocking, terrible. And I'm saying it, putting it out there. Some of these people's PR don't know, haven't got a clue about how to engage with the fans. One of the things that Team Fury did do, I know it's getting a bit more difficult because they're moving up the rankings now, and now they've got the big fight coming up. But certainly, when they started out, they were definitely with the fans and had open door policies with the fans. And that was it. I was able to interview Hugh Fury from the start and talk to Tyson and talk to Peter. When people wasn't even talking about Peter Fury. I remember when people wanted to talk about James Ali Bashir, nobody talks about Bashir, nobody cared about Bashir. And I used to get ripped by other stations for talking to unknown trainers. But that's part of the sport and getting to build a relationship. So in terms of that, I'd like to talk to more UK fighters, but that's the reason why I don't get talk to UK fighters. A lot more of the American fighters I talk to, and I enjoy talking to the American fighters. I get great reception from them. I did have lined up a Floyd Mayweather Senior interview, and the interview went along. I think I've said before, and I'll repeat myself one more time. I was kept the interview there, and then Floyd Mayweather Senior said to me, "I'd like you to, you know, send your questions in." And I guess I'm getting dubbed like all the rest of the American media. So eventually, it'd be nice to be in America and meet these other fighters, and you know, do some coverage from America at some point in time. Would be great to do. But yeah, coverage with the. I mean, I could, to be honest, if I'm honest, really, all the UK fighters are accessible. I could fly over from our island to England, but I have to say that, and I will say on live, ear that the treatment I have received from one particular boxing organization, well known in the UK, was pretty much disgusting. And I refused point blank to go back and cover any of their fights. Yeah, I'm not going to say who they are. Disgusted by their the man who does their media. Disgusted by the way he is. Doesn't think very highly of Bayloric TV, which is fine. This is okay. And somehow I have to prove to him that in terms of Bayloric and its value, and I couldn't bother with that. They know exactly who they are. The same people that will, you know, stroke your back and rub your back and talk to you and be nice to you with one face, the same people that stab you in the back. Boxing's a nasty business. Let's get this straight. It's a nasty business. I enjoy doing the videos and the interviews, and I do enjoy it, and I love it. But there's some nasty, slimy people in this sport, and unfortunately, and nobody appreciates what you do. But I won't turn up to interview. I won't turn up to press conferences and you know, you whisper in my ear to me, oh, don't ask too many questions. Don't say this. Don't say that. Yeah, whispered in my ear before I go and ask at press conferences. Yes, and that's their main media, man. That's all I'm saying. So no, I'm not too impressed, to be honest, and I'm not going to ask suck up questions either and try and be your best mate. I'm going to ask you questions to find out the heart. I'm interested in what you do. I'm interested in why. I want to know why you do what you do. You know, I don't want you to tell me you're in the best shape of your life. I don't want you to tell me, if you tell me in the best shape of your life, tell me why you're in the best shape of your life. Tell me what you've done differently. You know, don't give me the same crap that you're telling everybody else. So I'm not going to do that. And I do want to stress, I have made Bayloric TV, this boxing channel, specifically for boxing. But I have to say there's a lot more to Bayloric than just that. The one says, I love Football Manager, but wish there was a similar game for boxing. My idea is where you can be an outfit like Matchroom Boxing and sign fighters and do press conferences in front of Kirkland. LOL. I think it'd be good. An old boxing game I can tell you, if you can dig out World Boxing Championship Manager. It was Gremlin. It was on the Amiga. You can get emulated for it at the moment. You can download it, get the emulator, get the Amiga emulator. It's a great boxing management game. Fantastic. Another boxing game you check out is Boxing Title About Boxing. Very good in terms of management of boxing. You get to get the old fighters with the new fighters. Very good game as well. Simulation. And there's another one out there called World Boxing at the moment. Interesting game. It's very hard, very, very hard. I can have about 2 fights and the fighter gets knocked out. Very financial, very good game. Yeah. I would love you to interview Nicholas Wattles. He's a beast. Yeah, Nicholas Wattles is a beast indeed. Jamaican, would be a great interview. And there's no reason why probably that interview couldn't happen, along with Glenn Johnson and fighters like that. So yeah, I do love talking to Caribbean fighters. They have a certain flair about them. At Chris Golden, so true. More work goes on behind the scenes. Smile. Golden says, thanks to you. You're a very good team. Thank you, Chris Golden. Smile. I think you are too. Ingram, you're a phenomenal gift in your interviewing skills. No need to walk your style. You have interviewing swag. Yeah, it's great. It's great when people say you do great interviews and stuff. You know, I have to say that I tell you what I do find the most hurtful thing. I've gone over by an hour and a bit, but I'm here for the fans and you guys. But one thing I do find quite hurtful, and hurtful, because I do these videos and I do put my heart and soul into it. And then I did a video with Carl Froch versus Mayweather, and that video just blew up. It's got like 10,000 views now. It was a video that I got off of YouTube. It was the one where Froch is interviewing Mayweather and talks about the 60,000 fight and with George Gras at Wembley and chopping the trees down. It's very hurtful when something as insignificant and as silly as that can get 20,000 views, but yet something that you've taken your time to break down into videos and tag doesn't get the views. You know, And I will tell you now that I would personally, I do believe in being very natural. I do believe in keeping to the root of what you do and not selling out. And Bayloric, as far as I'm concerned, will never sell out, regardless of what money's put on the table. So, I think this video is in delay, so doesn't think highly of Bayloric. Oh my God, bollocks to them. They're not worth nothing. But if I revealed who the people were, and yeah, and then when I listen to the interviews that are done, when I listen to some of the interviews that are done, listen, let me tell you something. I'm not lying. I am not lying. This is honest, God honest truth, right? If I could have a camera myself when I do interviews, yeah, I've done 3 or 4 interviews at a time, and this is no bragging, this is no boasting, this is the God's honest truth. I've turned up to these interviews, yeah, and I watch all these people do their interviews, no word of lie, and then I'll do my interview, I no word of lie, everyone goes quiet, and they're watching like this. Why? What? There's no need for it, you know? And I heard your interview. And then people come and say to me, do you don't get a lot of views, do you? And then you get the arrogant ones. I'll say, you know what? I spoke to one guy. They said, who's Bayloric TV? But yet, the likes of people like Jim Rosenthal, who's a legend, Colin Hart, who else? Jeff Powell, guys who actually know, and journalists who know boxing and know about Bayloric TV, give me the utmost respect. Colin Hart, I can sit in the corner and talk to him for hours on boxing. You know, we talk. Jim Rosenthal, so he sees me, hi Ingram, how you doing? I'd be away 2 years, come back, Jim Rosenthal still recognizes me. That, you know, and when you talk to some of the fighters, they recognize, you know, when you're interviewing them, they know that you're going to give them a proper interview. Some guys don't want the interview because they know they're going to get asked serious questions. But yeah, you know, but I just get fed up of it. I get really fed up of it. And the well-known names, some of these people, and this is my final rant of the night, but these people, some of these people you see, they are more interested in themselves than actually the fighting or the fighters. So a lot of the interviews soaked with ego. So you don't really get to know really what the fighter is and the heart of the fighter. So you can't actually grow with the fighter. Now for me, you know, the last 2 World Heavyweight Championship big fights, Bermane Stiverne, example, was there, watched Bermane Stiverne beat Areola, then beat him again, then win the World Heavyweight Championship and lose the Heavyweight Championship of the world. That stuff, to be a part of that journey, from Brian Jennings to have the fights building up to fight Klitschko and then be able to have that contact with that guy, amazing. You know, Keith Thurman, to see Keith Thurman when nobody was talking about Keith Thurman and following the guy up to now, you know, one of the best fighters in the world, Terence Crawford. Nobody talks about Terence Crawford. Followed Terence Crawford. Now Terence Crawford, pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world. I must know something about boxing to be following these guys, right? And following them from the grassroots, following them through. It's a great experience, and that's what you want. Too much in boxing we've got, especially in Sky, where they try and make boxing into politicians. They're not politicians. They are boxers. Let the boxers be boxers. The one says, we know that controversy sales on boxing isn't as popular as it once was. Therefore, shouldn't broadcasters as Sky lift the lids on their filters regarding questions directed at fighters? Listen, let me explain something to you about people like Sky. Sky, I mean, the guy who heads boxing for Sky is Adam Smith, right? I don't believe Adam Smith has taken a punch in anger in boxing in my life. I don't think he has. And I don't think that he's the head of boxing. And he hasn't taken a punch in anger, I don't believe. Boxing, when you've got people that come from other careers and then come into boxing and have never taken a punch in anger, they've never been in the sport and have really gone through the hard graft of boxing, and then they're in these high positions, They have this sort of, their foot are not touching the ground. They're not honest. They're not realistic with reality. And then they're trying to censor what they've got, an idea in their stupid minds, an idea of how boxing should look. Like now, they're trying to make Anthony Joshua into being some political figure. What the hell? Anthony Joshua is who he is. Anybody who knows that Joshua knows what Joshua's about. I'm not just picking on Joshua, right? Luke Campbell, nice, good fighter. But you ruin these guys when you don't let them flow. You don't let these guys flow. Now, it's a little different in America. That's why I love the American fighters, because they just say it as it is. I love that. That's why I love people like Peter Fury and Tyson Fury. Say it as it is. Can't control them. Cannot control them. I remember watching Peter Fury, I think it was last weekend, on Box Nation, and he sat down, he was watching Tom Dallas fight a heavyweight, and they were saying how Tom Dallas was a scaffolder, the scaffolding, and Dallas got knocked into tomorrow, I think it was in the first round, got stopped really badly, and Peter Fury turned around and says, well, he should really stick to scaffolding. Found it funny, but he was brutally honest. Peter Fury just said, should be boxing, mate, sorry, you need to retire. Getting beat up too much in the sport, you need to retire. You need to have people that speak frank, straight words. That's why people love Paulie Malignaggi, because he says a lot of stuff. He says a lot of stuff, which is speaking the truth. That's why people like Sugar Ray Leonard when they talk, and the greats, because they talk not only from the greatness that they had as fighters, but the greatness they have in terms of intellectual stuff to explain and talk about the sport. And you need these guys in the sport to stop fanboys and fangirls, mainly fanboys, talking crap. You have people talking, educating you about the sport. That's what's necessary. Yeah, we need more trash talking in press conferences. But while Eddie Hearn is controlling press conferences and being the guy who's asking questions in press conferences, which I don't think he should be doing, I think that, you know, press conferences should be promoters as well. These are the fighters, introduce them and let the fighters talk. I really think that should be, yeah. Chris Golden says, there are a lot of haters out there, but you do have a lot of fans who appreciate your endeavors. The Baylor coverage of recent heavyweight fights was second to none. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Chris. Boxing is a unique sport where there is platform for trash talking, unlike in the Premier League, which feels like a closed platform for the elite that pushes out the common man. Good point. Very good point, the one. I would love to see Angel Garcia to tour the UK and spread his message to the masses. Angel Garcia is very funny. He's got a great philosophy about boxing, really easygoing. My problem with Angel Garcia is something that I don't think a lot of people picked up on. I believe Angel Garcia called Zab Judah the N-word. And if he did call Zab Judah the N-word, I don't care if you're trying to sell a fight or not. When you start using racial connotations and you are in the sport, it's bang out of order. So Angel Garcia, you know, he makes statements like, I love the strippers. I don't think women of any sort of class or dignity is going to appreciate Angel Garcia coming to the UK saying, I love the strippers. It's funny. I don't think he's going to be appreciated that much. Of course, for the boxing public, yes, Garcia is going to be loved. I think Garcia is a nice guy. In that sense, I think he's a very charismatic. But I think his run and Danny Garcia's run is coming to an end soon. They're very lucky against Peterson. It's the second fight now I've seen Danny Garcia get beaten, and I'm not sure if the Garcias have got it all together anymore as a boxing unit. Very questionable indeed. I think their future in the even if he steps up to welterweight is questionable, because I think Danny Garcia seems to me like a fade force, and I keep saying I think Lucas Matisse took a little bit more out of him than people are thinking, and I'm not sure about Danny Garcia's performances of late. Either he needs to change trainers, which means leave his father, because without Angel Garcia, Danny Garcia would be one hell of a boring fighter. He'd be very boring. Nobody would know about Danny Garcia. His dad is what sells him. If you ask Danny Garcia to talk, he couldn't talk for anything. So, right, it is now 10:15. This show was meant to finish at 9 o'clock. So, boxing fans, I know this is on slight delay when I talk, but this is 10:15. It's going to be a lot of boxing on. My final thing I will say is please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, tell your friends, let them know about the show. I will probably do a post-fight video about all the boxing, and see how many of these predictions I actually get right. I think I'm getting better at my predictions though, so I've got so many wrong at times. He has. I think Garcia has a granite chin because he has an extra toe. Yeah, he's got a granite chin, but you know what? Garcia, he's on borrowed time. I'm telling you, Danny Garcia's on borrowed time. Thank you very much to one. Thank you, Chris Golding. Thank you, Atia. Thank you, Bruce Wayne. Thank you, Atia. Thank you, Lucy Marshall. Anyone else having to thank you to? Mr. Good One. Thank you all for tuning in to Bayloric TV Boxing Live. Appreciate you. Love you all. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments, and don't also forget that the other channel, Ingram Jones, and the Ingram Jones Talks Back, will be answering more questions outside of the boxing world. I'll be answering more questions next week. I've got a pile. I've got about 20 questions I need to answer outside of boxing. So don't forget to subscribe to the Ingram Jones channel as well. And after May 19th, yes, I'll be back on Bayloric. Finally, before I finish, please, please, please check out, I'm typing it in for you, our station, not the YouTube channel, BayloricWorldwide.com. Oh, it's not going to show you there. I'm going to put it in the, oh, it's in the, I'll put it in the box. www.BayloricWorldwide.com. Check it out. It's got different interviews and shows from the Caribbean and here in the UK, and I mean Ireland, in the UK, and it's some stuff from Ireland as well. Lots of shows, exclusive interviews. I've got an interview with Muhammad Ali's brother, and interview with Destiny's Child's former manager, and loads of great stuff. So check out Bayloric Worldwide TV. Check it out. Just Google it and check out our station. Loads of good stuff. Relationship coaching, food and travel show, culture, lots of stuff. The Notting Hill Carnival. Get to see what the Caribbean looks like. Lots of stuff. Loads and loads of stuff to watch. So it's not just about boxing. As Chris Golden said, Bayloric's an experience. Good night, Lucy. Thank you for your comments and your time, your support. Thank you all. This has been Ingram Jones from Bayloric TV. God bless you and God bless America. Good night. Take care. Thanks for watching.